It's Monday in New Zealand, so you know what that means. It means I've been partly skiving off at work to watch a little bit of Major League Rugby, which was on the Sunday in the States. I've seen a couple of games, neither of them 80 for 80 minutes, but for the most part I've seen big portions of... I watched Rooney and San Diego, and I watched the Gilgronis up against the Sabercats. Dictated largely by the fact that the Gilgronis against Houston, that's an all-Texas affair, so that had to be a rivalry kind of clash. I later found out it was for the Texas Cup, so I had to watch that one. Mike sent me an email explaining, I haven't replied to you yet, Mike, sorry, but about all the rivalries, some of the rivalries in MLR, which was an interesting read. Relatively young competition, so trying to figure out who the rivalries are between is an interesting one for me as a New Zealander, but the fact that Houston and Austin want to beat each other didn't have to tell me that twice, so that was always going to be on my list to watch. And yeah, also Igor in the comments mentioned about how some of the big name guys go. Well, I figured I'll watch San Diego against against Rooney because that's Nono against Buster, although Nono didn't seem to play, which was a bit gutting. I'm not sure. I kind of skipped the pre-match preamble stuff. I went straight to the game because I didn't watch it live, but I didn't know the score, which was good. And yeah, I didn't see Nono players. I'm not sure what the deal was. Is he injured? Is he rested? I don't know. I missed that. But yeah, it was certainly some close games, man. I think the most points difference this week, was it 4 points? There were two games which were 24-20. But yeah, all these games were one score away from being a different result, which is fantastic. If you know, I'm from New Zealand, so I watch a lot of Super Rugby, and one of the things that caused Super Rugby to struggle over the years as they added all the more teams was the fact that as they added more teams, the quality of some teams seemed to drop. There was a bit of a diluting of some of the player pools, and some of the teams remained really strong. So there were regularly games which were lopsided. I'm not saying the MLR hasn't had some lopsided results, but this week in particular it had a lot of parity, which is what you want to see. I know the MLR is looking at adding teams, has been adding teams, so it's pleasing to see, despite the fact that they're adding teams, that the quality, or at least the parity, is there. I guess the salary cap will do that, but Super Rugby's got its own financial regulations and whatnot as well. So, yeah. So I watched Houston-Austin. That was an interesting one with the Gilgronis having an all-white uniform with white numbers on the back. That was an interesting choice. It makes it a bit hard to identify who did what. Maybe that's a tactical decision. I'm not sure. But they went down to a pretty big deficit earlier, like 17-0 down. But then they scored, I think it was 23 or 21 answered points to really come back, and it was a bit of a nail-biter. It was 24-20 with like 15 or 20 minutes to go, and they managed to see it out. You can see they just, like the last few phases they went through the game, they really wanted to not give Houston one last chance to score. They just ran the clock down, which is sometimes a bit of a risky measure because you risk getting turned over or penalised, but they managed to get it done, and they celebrated pretty heartily when the full-time whistle was blown. I'm sure they'll be having a few Gilgronis after the game. Highlight from what I saw of him seemed pretty sharp, which was nice. And yeah, that's a nice ground, that one at Houston. They said it was on the commentary that it's one of the first, or I think it's the second purpose-built rugby stadium in the States, which was cool. It's a nice looking ground. So yeah, that was quite easy on the eye. The crowd seemed all right. Not as good as the other game that I watched, but yeah, it was definitely a fun watch. The other one that I watched, I should have mentioned that game was 24-20. The other game that I watched was also 24-20. That was San Diego against Rooney. And likewise, one team went down early. I think it was 10-0 down. Rooney were at one point, and then they got a penalty try and a penalty to even it up 10-all. And Buster was having a big impact. He was, being physical, which is what you want. His control at the back of the scrum is better than I would have expected. So, yeah, they actually went in 13-10 ahead at halftime. But there was kind of one key passage of play. If you haven't seen the game, you should go and watch it because it was pretty entertaining. Rooney are on defense for ages. For an age. They just keep giving away penalties. And they get warned, they get yellow carded, they're giving away more penalties, but they're defending, they're not letting the San Diego guys through. Eventually, they manage to get a maul turnover. And you're like, that's the moment. That's the moment. After hanging on for that long, even with a man down, you get that maul turnover. You guys have just won the psychological battle. But from the resulting scrum, San Diego get the ball. It pops out the side. San Diego get the ball and hit back with a score. So they ended up scoring anyway. After all that, that's a killer blow psychologically. Like, you've just won that battle and then you just lose it. A bit of a tragedy, and it's salt in the wound that they conceded another try straight after. I think it was Josh Furno and was it Luke Burton kick and regather, and Furno ended up with the ball. So top stuff from San Diego, man. They didn't take their foot off the throat, even when it looked like they had given it up. They still managed to score. So 24-13 from 13-10. So it's a bit of a switch around, man. Like, to be down by 3 and then to be up by 11 during that yellow card period. So pretty costly. That being said, Rooney did strike back. Whoever their centre is, I forget his name, hit the ball at pace, straight over for a try. But again, that was the final score. So kind of similar games. There was still like 15-20 minutes to go. No scoring throughout the end. Rooney were putting on heaps of pressure. Couldn't quite get it done, even though they were camped down the San Diego end. The crowd were literally on the edge of their seats waiting for that full-time whistle, which was, an entertaining game. A good crowd, active crowd, which was really pleasing as well. So, kicked it out at the death, and happy days. Bastero played like 71 minutes, which is a pretty good effort from the big man. So, those are the two games that I watched. I also see Colorado. I can hear my daughter. She is happy about this. Colorado managed to stop the seemingly unstoppable Toronto side, 22 points to 19. So, again, very close game. Colorado are now 2 wins, 3 losses. Toronto 4 wins and handed their first loss. NOLA beat New England 30. Oh, that's the one game which was a blowout. Sorry, I read my handwriting wrong. 31-22. That's the biggest result of the game. It's not 4 points. NOLA over New England, 31-22. So New England are on like a 4-game losing streak now, which is getting a bit ugly. I need to watch one of their games at some point because I haven't watched them since like round 1. So NOLA are 3-2 and New England are 1-4. Houston, Austin, I mentioned, was 20 points to Houston, 24 to Austin. Austin's now 1 win, 3 losses, and 1 draw. So they're no longer at the bottom of the table. I think that's Houston with 1 win and 4 losses. Seattle, another loss. This time to Utah, 33 points to 31 at home. So 1 win and 4 losses for Seattle. Utah, 2 wins, 2 losses, and a draw. So kind of middling. DC, another win, 31 points to 29 over ATL. That's a good win, 4 wins and a loss for them. ATL, 2 wins and 3 losses, so just below 500. And like as I said, San Diego 24-20 over Rooney. San Diego 5 from 5. Rooney are 3-2. So entertaining bit of games that I've seen. I mean, you could have picked any one of those, and it was a pretty close game, barring the NOLA New England one. But overall, pretty fun stuff. Better help put my daughter to bed because she's ready to go. Sun is about to set here in New Zealand. Been watching the Six Nations since like 4 in the morning, so it's been rugby all day long. Before work, at work, after work. Might have a problem. Anyway, guys, cheers for stopping by. Let me know your thoughts on the games that I didn't see because, as I said, I've only seen kind of the majority of 2 of them when there were 6 games on. But as always, let me know your thoughts. Drop the video a like if you don't mind. I'd appreciate it. And talk to you again soon. See you later.